The next item on the agenda is the CNSC staff report on the performance of uranium mines and mills facilities 2013. This is outlined in CMD 14M58 and 14M58.A. The public was invited to comment in writing on this item, and the Commission received 2 written submissions. We have a representative from Cameco Corporation and Arriva Resources Canada, Inc., joining us by video conference from Saskatoon, and they are available for question after the presentation. Also in Saskatoon is Mr. Tim Moulding from Saskatchewan Ministry of Environment. So before we get going, let's test the technology. Saskatoon, can you hear us?
We can. Tim Moulding unfortunately couldn't join us, so he's not here.
Okay. And I also understand that Dr. James Irvine is joining us via teleconference.
I'm actually in the Saskatoon CNSC office.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. So I'll turn the floor now to Mr. Newland for the presentation.
If I may, Mr. President, is there anybody else from the Saskatchewan government in the room, or was Mr. McCullum? Yeah, thank you, Mr. McCullum. From the Ministry of Economy, I think.
Sorry, let me get a few things clarified. So if in Saskatoon, Sarah, could you please have everyone around the table quickly introduce themselves so the Commission members will know we're in the room in Saskatoon, please?
Sure. So I'm Sarah Eaton. I'm a CNSC project officer.
James Irvin.
Liam Mooney.
Kevin Hoggy.
Tammy Van Lamboden with Arriva.
Dale Hoffman with Arriva. Jack Richards with Arriva.
Jim Corman with Arriva.
Keith Cunningham with the Ministry of the Economy for Saskatchewan.
Thank you. Mr. Nolan, go ahead.
With that, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the Commission once again. My name is David Newland and I'm the Acting Director General of the Directorate of Nuclear Cycle and Facilities Regulation. With me today are Mr. Jean Leclerc, Director of Uranium Mines and Mills Division, and Mr. Mark Langdon to his left. Mark is the Supervisor of the Uranium Mines and Mills Division. We also have CNSE staff involved in this report here in Ottawa, and also joining us today in Ottawa is Mr. Kevin McCullum from the Saskatchewan Ministry of the Environment. By teleconference from Saskatoon, we also have Uranium Mines and Mills project officers. Also connected from Saskatoon by video conference are the licensees representatives from Cameco and Arriva. We are here today to present Commission Member Document CMD 14M58, entitled CNSE Staff Report on the Performance of Uranium Mine and Mills Facilities 2013. And with that, I will now pass the presentation over to Mr. Leclerc.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, les membres de la Commission. Mon nom est Jean Leclerc. Je suis directeur des mines et usines de concentration d'uranium de la Commission canadienne de sûreté nucléaire. Puis, si vous pouvez imaginer le nombre de fois que j'ai dit ça pendant les 4 dernières semaines à Québec aux audiences du BAP, je me suis beaucoup pratiqué. Par contre, je vais m'exprimer en anglais tout simplement pour le bénéfice des gens qui sont anglophones. So on that note, I'd like to start off perhaps by noting a correction on one of the tables that was in the staff CMD. This is on table 2-5 on page 22. In doing a review of the table, we noted that there were 3 transcription errors in the table that have been corrected and are provided here so that they're on the record. You can see the 3 numbers on the left as they were submitted and the revised numbers on the right. Please note that the corrected values do not make a difference to the conclusion and still show that the values are well below the licensed discharge limits. Our presentation today will first consist of an overall introduction. We'll quickly go over the content of the report, provide you an update on external events, particularly with regards to Fukushima, as well as a recent event at the Allen Potash Mine in Saskatchewan with regards to an underground truck fire. We have another CMD presentation that is planned for later on the Mount Poly, so we won't discuss that in this presentation. We'll be covering that off on a standalone item. We'll also provide a quick update on a few projects that may be of interest to the Commission, namely the Kigavik project, the Millennium project, as well as the Gunner and Laredo decommissioning project. We'll provide a general description of the performance for each of the facilities, followed by specific information for the 5 operating facilities. And it's interesting to note that for uranium mines and mills, over the last 2 years, all of the operating mines and mills have been brought forward to the Commission for either license amendments or license renewals. McLean Lake was in December of 2012, Cigar Lake in April of 2013, MacArthur River, Rabbit Lake, and Key Lake in October of 2013. So some of the data that we will be presenting today has been presented previously to the Commission, either as part of those license hearings and also as part of last year's annual report. I would now like to pass the presentation over to Mark Langdon.
Thank you, Jean. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commission members. My name is Mark Langdon, and I'm the Supervisor of the Uranium Mines and Mills Division. The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission regulates Canada's uranium mines and mills to protect the health and safety and security of persons, to protect the environment, to ensure that Canada continues to implement its international commitments on the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and to disseminate objective scientific, technical, and regulatory information to the public. This is accomplished by CNSC staff through a risk-informed compliance program of verification, enforcement, and reporting. On the right side of this slide are listed the 14 safety and control areas on which CNSC staff assess the licensee's performance against set criteria, regulatory and license requirements, performance objectives, and CNSC staff expectations. This report provides performance information for the 2013 calendar year. It includes CNSC staff's assessment of the licensee's overall performance and includes information on significant events, developments, and license changes. The report also provides 5-year trend data and some performance comparisons to other mining sectors. The report focuses on the performance data on the 3 safety and control areas of radiation protection, environmental protection, and conventional health and safety. I would like to highlight some new information additions that are within the 2013 report. We've added information to the report relating to contaminant releases to the atmosphere from the uranium mines and mills, reclamation and decommissioning timeline estimates, and the Country Foods Assessment by the Eastern Athabasca Regional Monitoring Program 2012. Finally, we have included spill rating definitions of high, medium, and low, which CNSC staff now apply to all spills to provide a sense of significance to each spill reported. The CNSC is committed to ongoing continuous improvement, taking into account current events and lessons learned from both nuclear and non-nuclear sources. Lessons learned from the Fukushima event are provided, and a discussion on power loss and communications at uranium mines as the lessons learned resulting from the Allen Potash mine fire is presented. A separate presentation is planned for later today, as Jean had told you, to discuss the breach of the tailings pond dam at the Mount Nansen or the Mount Poly mine in British Columbia. As a result of the tsunami and resulting Fukushima nuclear power plant accident, the CNSC developed an integrated action plan. The uranium mine and mill facilities were required to re-examine the safety cases and report on implementation plans for short-term and long-term measures to address any gaps discovered. Licensees conducted formal reviews of their emergency preparedness and response plans at their northern Saskatchewan facilities, including multiple natural disaster scenarios, such as a forest fire and power outage. These reviews confirmed the appropriateness of the programs implemented to protect the health and safety of people and the environment during potential natural disaster situations. CNSC staff reviewed the licensees' reports and verified their conclusions that the underlying defense in-depth controls were in place to deal with natural disasters and severe accidents, and confirmed that the facilities were operating in a safe manner and continue to make improvements as part of ongoing operations. There are no remaining or outstanding actions for the uranium mine and mill facilities. On September 10, 2014, a fire occurred at the Allen Potash underground mine in Saskatchewan, resulting in power loss and communication issues. A lessons learned topic resulting from the Allen Potash mine fire is the ability for communications in underground mines in the event of power loss. This slide and the next one review emergency preparedness with respect to power loss and communications at uranium mines and mills. Facilities have emergency preparedness and response programs and specific emergency response plans in place to prevent and mitigate the impacts of potential crisis situations. Each facility has qualified emergency response teams to respond in the event of emergencies. These teams undergo rigorous hands-on training. Mutual aid agreements are in place with other northern sites, providing additional mine rescue support when necessary. In the event of an underground emergency, such as a fire, stench gas that smells like rotten eggs is released into the underground ventilation system to notify workers to immediately report to an underground refuge station. These refuge stations are strategically located throughout the underground. Each refuge station is equipped with supply of breathable air, potable water, food, lights, first aid supplies, sanitation facilities, firefighting equipment, sufficient seating for the number of workers expected, and effective means of communication with surface. Refuge stations are positively pressured and ventilated with surface air. Surface compressors that supply this air can be operated on backup diesel power in the event of a site power outage. The refuge station is also equipped with backup air supply from oxygen cylinders, as well as battery-powered carbon dioxide scrubbers to ensure a breathable air supply. Uranium mine refuge stations are equipped with 3 methods of communication. Telephones are strategically located at underground locations, including within refuge stations. The majority of underground workers carry handheld battery-operated radios. Refuge stations are equipped with battery-operated fixed radio communication. The leaky feeder antenna system underground requires low voltage, so it would require either primary or backup power to operate. Femco telephones are self-contained battery-powered communication devices that are located in the refuge stations to provide additional backup means of communication with the surface in the event of power loss. Facilities are connected to the provincial electrical power grid and are equipped with backup diesel electrical power generators. In the event of power outage, generators can provide backup power sufficient for essential services, including communication, ventilation, and shaft operations until permanent power is restored. Both Cameco and Areva have conducted emergency exercises that simulate a loss of power to the operations, including evaluation of communications to ensure response teams are adequately prepared. On surface, facilities also have cellular telephone coverage and satellite telephones available for emergency use. CNSC staff are satisfied that communication devices available at the uranium mines and mills in the event of power loss are sufficient. This slide provides brief updates on other uranium projects under review. For the Kigavit project, Areva plans to submit its final environmental impact statement to the Nunavut Impact Review Board in the fall of 2014. For Cameco's Millennium Project in Saskatchewan, in May 2014, Cameco wrote to the CNSC to withdraw their application for a construction and operating license, citing unfavorable economic conditions. Cameco will continue to do some limited work to be in a position to resubmit their application should market conditions change. The Legacy Gunner Project is the cleanup and decommissioning of the former gunner mine that operated from 1955 to 1963 in northern Saskatchewan. Environmental assessment and licensing will be presented to the Commission for a decision in November 2014. The Legacy Laredo project that operated from 1957 to 1960 had a CNSC license issued in 2013. Phased reclamation work is ongoing and is expected to be completed by the end of 2015. The next few slides will be discussing the safety performance at the uranium mines and mills. There are currently 5 operating uranium mine and mill facilities in Canada, all located in the Athabasca Basin in northern Saskatchewan. Cameco operates Cigar Lake, McArthur River, Rabbit Lake, and Key Lake, while Areva operates McLean Lake. This slide displays the license issue dates, license expiry dates, and license terms for the facilities. Commission hearings were conducted in 2013 for the relicensing of the 4 Cameco facilities. Areva's McLean Lake operation had a commission hearing for a license amendment in December 2012. The ratings for each safety and control area is based on the licensee meeting the regulatory requirements as assessed through CNSC staff compliance and licensing activities. The level of staff review for each safety and control area takes into consideration the facility-specific activities and the risk that these activities comprise. All operating uranium mine and mill facilities received a satisfactory performance rating for 2013. To ensure licensees provide open and transparent information to the public, in 2012, the CNSC published new regulatory requirements in Regulatory Document 99.3, Public Information and Disclosure. As part of regular outreach activities, CNSC staff participate in community meetings, Environmental Quality Committee meetings, site tours, northern tours, and CNSC 101 events. Additionally, the CNSC shares information through the CNSC website and CNSC Online. This slide shows the number of inspections conducted in 2013 and the resulting action notices for each facility. Please note, CNSC staff also issue recommendations during inspections for continual improvement. The 21 action notices issued have all been closed to the satisfaction of CNSC staff. The graph on this slide shows the maximum individual effective radiation doses for uranium mine and mill workers from 2009 to 2013. The red line on this chart displays the effective dose regulatory limit that a nuclear energy worker can receive in a year. As you can see, the highest dose received by an individual worker at each of these facilities was well below the annual dose limit of 50 millisieverts. As part of routine and focused compliance inspections, CNSC staff verified and confirmed that licensees have effective radiation protection programs to monitor and control radiation exposures. Consistent with the principle of ALERA, CNSC staff conclude that licensees continue to work at reducing worker exposures. As previously mentioned, air quality monitoring data has been added to the 2013 report. Facilities measure ambient air quality around each operation utilizing the following methods. High volume air samplers collect particulates from the atmosphere. The particles can also be analyzed for metals and radionuclides. Radon track etch detectors passively measure the radon concentrations in air over time. Particulates in the air are deposited on soil and vegetation, which can then be analyzed to verify acceptable operational conditions. And ambient air is monitored for sulfur dioxide to ensure acceptable levels. Uranium mills with yellow cake dryers, calciner operations, and acid plants have air stack emissions that are also monitored. As part of regular compliance activities, CNSC staff remove air quality data to ensure that the health and safety of workers and the environment are protected. This slide demonstrates the track etch results showing radon concentrations in ambient air in 2013. The 60 becquerels per cubic meter reference level has been derived from the radiation protection regulations and approximates to the 1 millisievert per year regulatory dose limit for members of the public. As you can see on this slide, radon concentrations in the ambient air at all facilities are well below the reference level of 60 becquerels per cubic meter. Suspended particulates captured in the high volume air samplers are analyzed for metal and radionuclide concentrations. Shown on this slide are concentrations of lead-210, radium-226, thorium-230, and uranium, which are well below the referenced air quality levels. In conclusion, for air quality monitoring, all facilities conduct regular air quality monitoring to demonstrate that environmental impacts remain within acceptable levels. Facilities demonstrate strong performance mitigating and monitoring atmospheric effects on their operations on the environment. CNSC staff conclude that for atmospheric releases, the environment is protected. Historically, at the uranium mine and mill facilities, selenium, uranium, and molybdenum were identified as constituents of potential concern. As a result, licensees were required to improve engineering controls and treatment technologies to reduce effluent concentrations of these contaminants. For all 5 facilities in 2013, concentrations of selenium in treated effluent remained below the provincial limit of 0.6 milligrams per liter. Concentrations of uranium in treated effluent were well below both the provincial limit of 2.5 milligrams per liter and a CNSC's internal objective of 0.1 milligrams per liter. And concentrations of molybdenum in treated effluent were well below the McArthur River action level of 1 milligram per liter. CNSC staff are satisfied that treated effluent annual average concentrations were below licensed limits. This slide shows a comparison of uranium mines and mills effluent quality to 4 other mining sectors across Canada from 2008 to 2012. The table provides the percentage of mines and mills in each mining sector that were in compliance for each year. For a mine to be in compliance, their effluent must have met all of the regulatory effluent release limits of the metal mining effluent regulations for contaminant concentrations of arsenic, copper, lead, nickel, zinc, total suspended solids, radium-226, and pH for the entire year. For example, if a sector had a 50% compliance rating, this would mean only half of the facilities in that sector met all of the requirements for the full year. As shown, the uranium mines and mills sector achieved an 80% compliance rating for the 2012 year due to one regulatory effluent exceedance when pH and total suspended solid levels exceeded licensed limits at the McArthur River operation. This exceedance is further discussed in the 2013 report. Lost time incident statistics are a key measure of licensee performance. The 2013 statistics demonstrate satisfactory performance in keeping workers safe from occupational injuries. CNSC staff confirm that the licensees provide effective oversight of health and safety. Appendix F contains the timeline estimates of major reclamation and decommissioning activities for each of the 5 mine and mill facilities as prepared by the licensees. An example is shown on this slide as Key Lake. The timelines provide an estimate of the mine or mill's life based on current reserves, future production estimates, and a general reclamation and decommissioning plan. It is important to note that the timelines are estimates and are subject to change over time. The Eastern Athabasca Regional Monitoring Program monitors the safety of traditionally harvested country foods, including water, fish, berry, and mammal chemistry from representative communities located in the region. CNSC staff conclude that the radiological dose received from consumption of country foods is below the public dose limit and is not a concern to human health. CNSC staff agree with the Provincial Human Health Risk Assessment of 2013, which confirmed that country foods assessed were safe to consume. And now I'm going to discuss the Cigar Lake operation. Cameco's Cigar Lake operation is the world's second largest known high-grade uranium deposit. The picture on the right shows the surface facilities at the Cigar Lake mine. In December 2013, the first ore cavity was excavated using the jet bore system. Commissioning of ore production continues today, along with continued development of ground freezing. High-grade uranium ore slurry will be transported to McLean Lake for milling. There are no tailings facilities at Cigar Lake. Radiation doses to workers at Cigar Lake in 2013 met regulatory limits and were ALERA. There were 4 lost time incidents in 2013. CNSC staff observed Cigar Lake efforts for continual improvement in health and safety through the transition from construction to operational activities. In 2013, CNSC staff observed that treated effluent parameter concentrations were below regulatory limits. Cigar Lake had 2 environmental spills, which were remediated with no residual environmental impacts. Air monitoring shows environmental impacts were negligible. CNSC staff conclude in 2013 that the health and safety of workers and the environment were protected at the Cigar Lake operation. Now I'll discuss the McArthur River operation. McArthur River operation is the world's largest high-grade uranium mine. The picture on the right shows the surface facilities of the McArthur River mine. Cameco's McArthur River operation continued to focus on underground and freeze development. High-grade ore production produces an ore slurry that is transported to Key Lake for milling. There are no tailings facilities at McArthur River. In 2013, radiation exposures were controlled and doses kept to LARA. There were no lost time incidents, and CNSC staff observed a strong focus on accident prevention. In 2013, CNSC staff observed that contaminant concentrations in treated effluent were below licensed limits. At McArthur River, there were 2 environmental spills, which were remediated, leaving no measurable impacts to the environment. Results of air monitoring shows environmental impacts were negligible, and CNSC staff are satisfied that McArthur River continues to protect the health and safety of workers and the environment. Now for Rabbit Lake operation. Rabbit Lake has been in operation since 1974 and is both a mine and a mill. The picture on the right shows the mill facility at Rabbit Lake. Cameco's Rabbit Lake operation continued to operate its mill and underground mine in 2013. Based on results of ongoing exploration activities, Cameco expects the Eagle Point mine to operate until at least 2018. Reclamation activities continued in 2013, and Rabbit Lake continues to operate an in-pit tailings management facility. Rabbit Lake also has an above-ground tailings management facility which has not received any tailings since 1985. At Rabbit Lake in 2013, radiation doses were kept below regulatory limits and as low as reasonably achievable. There were no lost time incidents, and CNSC staff observed effective management of health and safety risks. In 2013, CNSC observed that treated effluent discharged to the environment complied with licensed limits. There were 3 environmental spills that were remediated with no residual impacts. Air monitoring shows environmental impacts were negligible. CNSC staff are satisfied that Rabbit Lake continues to protect the health and safety of workers and the environment. Now for Key Lake operation. Cameco's Key Lake Mill is the world's largest producer of yellowcake. The picture on the right shows Key Lake's mill facility. Cameco's Key Lake operation continued to mill McArthur River high-grade ore in 2013. A slope stabilization project for the in-pit tailings facility was also completed. Key Lake continues to operate the in-pit tailings management facility, and they have above-ground tailings facility which has not received tailings since 1996. At Key Lake in 2013, radiation exposures were controlled and doses kept as low as reasonably achievable. There were no lost time incidents. The CNSC staff observed a strong focus on accident prevention. In 2013 at Key Lake, effluent quality met license limits with the exception of a single pH exceedance. There were 3 environmental spills that were remediated with no measurable impacts to the environment. Air monitoring shows environmental impacts were negligible, and CNSC staff are satisfied that Key Lake continues to protect the environment and the health and safety of workers. And now I'll discuss Arriva's McLean Lake operation. The McLean Lake Mill has been designed to process Cigar Lake high-grade ore. The picture on the right shows the McLean Lake facilities. Arriva's McLean Lake ceased normal milling operations in July 2010. In 2013, McLean Lake continued mill modifications for the milling of Cigar Lake ore planned for the fall of 2014. McLean Lake operates an in-pit tailings management facility that has been receiving tailings since 1999. At the McLean Lake operation in 2013, radiation doses were kept well below regulatory limits and as low as reasonably achievable. There were no lost time incidents in 2013, and CNSC staff observed a commitment to accident prevention. At McLean Lake, CNSC staff observed the contaminant concentrations in treated effluent were well below licensed limits. There were 4 environmental spills. All were remediated with negligible impacts to the environment. Air monitoring shows environmental impacts were negligible, and CNSC staff are satisfied that McLean Lake continues to protect the health and safety of workers and the environment. And now I'd like to pass the presentation back to Mr. David Newland.
Thank you, Mark. Based on CNSC staff's compliance activities, which included site inspections, review of performance criteria, desktop reviews, event and incident reviews, general communication and exchange of information with the licensees, CNSC staff concluded that a satisfactory performance rating was assessed for all 14 safety and control areas for the 5 operating uranium mine and mill facilities. That the licensees' radiation protection measures were effective in keeping doses as low as reasonably achievable, that their environmental protection programs were effective at protecting the environment, and that their conventional health and safety programs continued to protect workers. CNSC staff conclude that in 2013, each regulated facility operated safely and met performance expectations with respect to the health and safety of persons and the environment and to Canada's international obligations. And with that, that concludes staff's presentation, and staff are available for to respond to questions. Thank you.
Thank you.